Curious how I achieved this feathery look on this bird? Or this fur texture on this dog? How about this long hair on this cat? Well, it's all thanks to the magic of the grainer brush, also called a rake brush. A link to my favorite grainer brush is in the video's description. These brushes can come in multiple widths and shapes. Today I'll be demoing a flat 1/2 inch grainer brush and a filbert 3/4 inch grainer brush. Grainer brushes are perfect for what I like to call the 3 F's. Feathers, fur, and foliage. Grainer brushes are just like regular flat brushes, except the bristles are more sparse at the top. This will allow you to paint variegated textures on your artwork. It's an absolute game changer for pet portrait artists. It makes really exciting feather patterns when you crisscross the bristles on your paper. It also depicts foliage very well. And of course, you know I love to use it for fur. Short hair, long hair, curly hair, anything hair, you need a grainer brush. Here's the demo. Both of these brushes are Princeton Select, the short handle blue brushes. These are 100% synthetic brushes, and you can see up close how sparse the bristles are at the top, but they're dense at the bottom, which is great because it'll hold a lot of paint and water. So we have our filbert, which is the shape, it's a rounded shape at the top, and flat, meaning it's straight at the top. Now the thing with grainer brushes is they will behave differently depending on how much paint and water is loaded into the brush. So I will be demoing these things on dry paper, and right now I'm saturating the brush. It's pretty saturated, let's see. Now let's try blotting it. Big difference there. I'm going to do a heavy mix of color and blot it slightly and see if we can get some nice textures here. And that looks really good. You can see the possibilities with a brush like this. And the third way we're going to test our grainer brushes is by pulling color. So I'm gonna blot my brush, make sure the bristles are nice and separated, and pull this area of wet into the area of dry paper. So you can already see the different strokes and textures you can create with your grainer brush. Let's do the same thing with our 1/2 inch flat grainer brush. This first stroke is with a loaded brush. And now with a blotted brush. Heavy mix of color on a blotted brush. Right away, the difference that I notice is that you can get longer strokes, achieve longer strokes with the longer bristles of the 3/4 inch filbert brush. And that looks really cool. I like how those are quite a bit different. Blotting my brush and pulling color from wet to dry. Pretty neat what you can do with a grainer brush. So I've mentioned that grainer brushes are excellent for depicting feathers, fur, and foliage. So let me demo a couple different ways so you can get some ideas on how best to use your grainer brush. Downy feathers are those feathers that aren't your typical beautiful long feather shape. They're usually those soft feathers that kind of have this crisscross pattern on the belly of a bird. And I found that grainer brushes work wonderfully well for this application. So I have a somewhat heavy mix. I'm going to try to blot it and also separate my bristles manually. You can see without the blotting, it's a little bit more pigment, but the bristles can sometimes stick together a little bit more. Let's try the same thing with our filbert. Heavy mix, blotting it a little bit. You can really see the shape of that filbert at the start when you're painting. Blotting it a little bit more, and the bristles, it just makes a little bit of a different effect. And then the same thing if you're working with edges. So oftentimes I pull color when I'm working with edges. So let's say maybe we have a blue wing with a blue edge, and we'll do 2 edges here. And you can pull to get a little bit of a furry edge that you might see on the bird. So I'm really using kind of just this tiny edge of this brush to catch that paint. I'm not using the whole thing. Let's see how it looks with this brush. This one I'm finding I do have to use the whole complete full flat edge to get the look that I'm after. I'm really liking the performance of this filbert one so far, and I think it does have something to do more so with the length of the bristles than the actual shape of the bristles. So oftentimes we're painting fur on dogs and cats. My filbert over here. You can just see how you can get fur, a beautiful furry look on your animals with this brush. Let's do the same with this flat one. Again, you get some beautiful, beautiful fur with this, right on the dry paper like that. And you can do a similar thing that we've already kind of demoed, pulling color into the dry areas. So if you're looking at like a large area of color on a dog and you just want to make sure that you can see the edge of that is fluffy, you can use your grainer brush to get that fluffiness. So kind of just using the one edge of this brush. I like that. And this could be performing better too, just because this brush is a little bit older and more used. And it also depends too on how blotted your brush is and things like that. Let's move on to foliage. If we're doing a tree shape, and maybe we have, let's just say that's our little tree trunk. And we want to give it some maybe pretty fall leaves. Oof, that's a lot. So there we go. Okay, I have a heavy mix of color. I'm just going to manually separate my bristles here and see if I can get and you can see how you could do some cool things. And even this brush, if you work with the side of it, you can manipulate that shape a little bit so that not every stroke has to be super round. That looks really cool. You could just see the possibilities of different things you can paint using these brushes. And then of course you can do grasses and shrubs. So maybe I'd mix up some greens, a little bit of a greeny color. And with my filbert, you can achieve very long grasses here and shrubs. Let's see what it looks like with my flat brush, manually separating the bristles a little bit. Similar results, I'd say. But it is easier to do longer strokes with the longer bristles of the filbert. I've had some students actually tell me that they've DIY made their own grainer brushes from existing flat brushes that they already have. I have no idea how to do that or how they do that, but if you're DIY inclined, go to town. If you have a favorite way that you love to use a grainer brush, please let me know in the comments. Don't forget to grab your supply list at paint333.com. Give this video a thumbs up if it was helpful for you, and I will see you in the next video. Happy painting. Augie, that's enough. Augie, that's very loud. Augie, stop biting stuff. Augie, stop it.